Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of Fast X. This movie is directed by Louis Leterrier, who previously directed The Incredible Hulk, the first two Transporter movies, the Now You See Me films, and Clash of the Titans. This movie stars Vin Diesel, Jordana Brewster, Jason Momoa, Michelle Rodriguez, Ludacris, Tyrese Gibson, Natalie Emmanuel, and the rest of the Fast and Furious crew that we've come to know. The plot of this movie is when the son of a drug kingpin that the Fast crew disposed of at the end of Fast and Furious 5 comes out of hiding, he seeks revenge against Dom and his crew. Now, going into this film, my only thought was, another Fast and the Furious movie? Okay, hopefully this is the last one, because the quality of these movies has surely gone downhill, especially since Fast and the Furious 6. So, I wanted to see what kind of silly, cartoonish hijinks the Fast and the Furious crew was going to get involved with, involving cars. So, having seen the movie wasn't as silly as the previous film, but the plot and everything is still all over the place. Now, let me start with the acting in this movie. It's going to be quite simple and short because a lot of the characters, a lot of their traits, mannerisms, and who they are at this point in the series is the same that it's been for like the last three movies. Vin Diesel as Dominic Toretto. He's the leading man that mumbles, it's super tough, that has a heart of gold, yet is not afraid to sacrifice himself to save those he cares about, or his family, which I'll get to in a little bit. Uh, Vin Diesel is what you expect. You know, he's getting older. He doesn't have to do a whole lot, but it's almost like he's asleep when he delivers his lines. A lot of his scenes are his character listening to somebody, giving this very poignant, inspirational line of dialogue, and then hugging or, clenching hands or just showing some sort of compassion towards his fellow man or whoever character is on screen with it. Uh, a lot of the characters are split up in this movie. So we get kind of as people like to call it, a boomerang type episode from like The Walking Dead, where you have two characters, they're headed towards one area. Next episode is some other characters heading towards that same area. Another episode is a character going towards the same destination, and then by the end, they'll all meet up. And that's the kind of storytelling we got in this movie. Is the characters are split up through most of the movie, yet they're heading towards the same destination. So they all run into bad guys or people from the agency, or they have to fight their way out of certain areas. And a lot of it is the same. It's characters will go somewhere where they think they're safe, or they think they'll have some sort of relief, and then they have to like fight their way out of it and then find another secret location to go to, or they run into a different problem. It's a lot of copy and paste, just changing out the characters in this movie. In the franchise, there are so many characters introduced that the movie doesn't need to focus on one individual character or their arc or any change in the story, because there's so many people that they really just have to be their regular, plain, one-note self in these movies, and that will pass as storytelling, which it really doesn't. Aside from Jason Momoa's bad guy in this movie, he is the only character that has any sort of development or any character that's really worth watching, because we've seen so many of these other characters in the previous 4 or 5, some of them 6 movies, that it's just a lot of the same with them. So here, Jason Momoa is the standout. He's a lot like the Joker with a fashion sense. Or if you're a WWE fan, he's like Seth Rollins. He's a lot like Seth Rollins, where he just cares about like his clothes. He's very woo, this is fun, over the top. Not really like a tough guy like he should have been depicted as, but more of a flamboyant psychopath. He could have gotten serious and violent and ruthless in some scenes, but he chose not to. He decides to have fun and toy with Dom and his crew rather than just get aggression and sad and angry and just show that type of side to him. But we will see where the franchise goes in the future. I'll get to that also in a little bit. A lot of the characters in this movie, or should I say cameos, if you will, they like to pop up, say a couple lines of dialogue, is almost as if they're doing a, hey, remember me? Remember this character? Remember the role I played in the previous film? Okay, bye. That's what they do here. Helen Mirren is one of those characters. Um, there are two actors that I did not expect to be in this movie. One's a male, one's a female. They work for the same organization. That's all I'm going to say. Seeing them was a surprise. The male character, I'm glad he's joined the Fast and Furious franchise because I've always liked his character or this actor. But yeah, a couple of them were just like, hey, I'm somebody important. Here's what I do. Here's my couple lines of dialogue. Okay, bye. A lot like Courtney Cox in Scream 6. It's like, all right, they're there to establish who they are or who we know them as, and then they don't offer a whole lot to the story. As far as the rest of the cast goes, Charlize Theron is back as Cypher. She's good. She's not given a whole lot to do because she's kind of paired with Michelle Rodriguez in this movie, and that storyline is interesting. I'm excited to see where that goes. John Cena is back as Dominic's brother Jacob. And one other thing I have to say about this movie is just like the Resident Evil franchise, this movie and this franchise likes to retcon and erase things that came before because a lot of the characters in this movie, aside from like Roman and Tej and Ramsey and Han, the characters don't act the same they did before. Jacob Toretto was introduced as this, this disgruntled, angry brother of Dominic Toretto. And now he's like a happy-go-lucky uncle to baby Brian, and he's just completely different. He's still a tough guy, but he's more like carefree and happy, and it's like the writers are like, all right, so who did we include in the franchise before? Okay, we'll bring them back. What kind of character were they? Describe them to me? Okay, I'm going to ignore that. We're going to put them in the movie because they're part of the Fast and the Furious family. Just like What's-His-Face from Tokyo Drift. They brought him back in the last movie and he's completely different. And when you're juggling this many characters, I will say it's nice that they've brought these actors and actresses back to kind of continue the continuity, but at the same time, they kind of abandon the continuity because they're completely different. So, the acting in this movie is okay. Does this movie jump the shark? Yes, it does. It's not as silly as the last film, but because the plot takes all of these characters to different locations, and realistically, aside from the text that comes on the screen that tells you, hey, they're in Rome, hey, they're in Brazil, hey, they're here, hey, you don't even realize it unless the character says it, and even then, the surroundings, the environment, it doesn't matter because the characters do the same thing they do in these other movies. They go to a different location, they get into some sort of hijinks or trouble, there's explosions, there's cars, there's gunshots, there's superheroism, and that's it. So, this review is a lot like my other review, unfortunately, because it's just more of the same with the Fast and Furious franchise this time around. So, because the heroes are superheroes, nothing can hurt them. Dom is a cartoon character, and the characters just really care about getting back together. They don't let anything else stop them. They don't like the destruction they cause in the streets of cities stop them. They don't like, they don't let their money stop them. They don't let any opposition get in their way of reuniting the family. And it's more of the same. Jason Momoa is the standout. Again, he should have shown more of a dark side, more of some aggression, because when you have a character like that are so carefree, they never worry. They never have anything to lose. They never care about anything. And the character is only interesting up to a point. There's a twist in the third act, which I did not see coming, but I like it. It was reminiscent of Fast and Furious 6. So I want this franchise to get back to being serious. Will that ever happen? Probably not. Because when you have a movie like this, that's for every demographic, every gender, every race, every age group, you're going to make $1 billion. So just why break the formula that is just blandness? There are a couple funny jokes, including Han and a special kind of muffin. Pete Davidson shows up because he's like a hot celebrity now, so they got to throw him in the movie. Yeah, it's more of the same you've come to expect by this franchise. There's a lot of actors and actresses in this movie, including Jason Statham. He comes back, which is really cool. And there's a post-credit scene. So it has me looking forward to what's coming next. It's probably going to be more of the same, but I'm going to see it because I like some of the actors, some of the nods, some of the emotion they show in this movie towards Brian and a couple other characters from the past. It was nice to see. Han and Dom get a little moment together because we've never really got them one on one sharing a scene talking about their past. And so I'm glad we got that here. But the rest of it's silly, fun, mindless action. So because of that, I'm going to give Fast X a C+. Hey, at least they didn't go into space this time. So until next time, guys.